What's good, y'all? It is finally that time of year. It is time for the start of preseason previews. This is the third year of me doing preseason previews on this channel. I'm really excited. It's one of my favorite series to do every single year. And of course, you know, we gotta start with my hometown team, the New York Knicks. Before we get into the actual video, in case you guys don't know, in preseason preview, basically what I'm gonna do is just go over the offseason, give a little recap of what happened last year, and then go into this season and try to see and predict what we can expect from each given team. The format is going to be a little bit different than last year. I'm not having any guests on this year. It's just going to be good old Jacob Blocks videos, me speaking directly to you guys about your favorite team. I'm going to cover all 30 NBA teams, so if you want to see your favorite team first or sooner, make sure you write it down in the comments below. But don't worry, because we will get to every single team eventually. I also am going to be one of those YouTubers real quick, and a super small percentage of you guys that watch my videos are actually subscribed. So if you're not subscribed and you enjoy the videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I appreciate it a lot. It helps the channel grow, so make sure you do that. And let's just jump right into it about the New York Knicks. Last year was a very successful season for the Knicks. They ended up being the third seed, going 51-31. They made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they eventually lost to the Indiana Pacers in 6 games. The first time in 25 years that they made it that far in the playoffs. I would say that's pretty successful. And now with the Eastern Conference gearing up to be injury-riddled and kind of wide open right now, the Knicks are looking to make that next step and make the finals and maybe even win a championship. And in this video, hopefully we can figure out if that is possible for the Knicks. First off, I want to start by talking about the guys that they lost in this offseason. We know every year guys come in, guys go out. For the Knicks specifically, though, they had their top tier core of guys pretty much wrapped up. Their whole top 7 guys essentially are back. The only guys that they really lost in free agency were Precious Achiuwa, Cam Payne, and Landry Shamet. I will say the Knicks still have one open roster spot and are able to sign one more guy to a vet minimum contract. And it has been rumored that Landry Shamet is looking to come back to the Knicks. There's kind of mutual interest there. As of right now, he's still a free agent, but keep your eyes on the lookout. Landry Shamet more than likely will be on the Knicks by the start of the season. And if he does re-sign to the Knicks, that means they really only lost out on Precious Achiuwa and Cam Payne. We'll get to their replacements of those in a second, but just quick shout out to both those guys. Precious Achiuwa being able to be that versatile big where sometimes he's running power forward, sometimes he's running center, just kind of an all-around hustle guy. He was able to fill in for the Knicks spot minutes, especially with Mitchell Robinson missing a majority of the regular season. And then Cam Payne was their backup point guard, and he was a real spark plug. He would kind of go up and down. He'd have some nights where he's just killing it. He hits 2 threes in a row. Other nights he wasn't as effective, but regardless, both those guys really were good contributors to the Knicks last season, so shout out to them, but they will be on new teams. When you look at the free agents the Knicks brought in, though, it's pretty easy to see that they replaced both Cam and Precious with upgrades at their positions. The first signing they made was Jordan Clarkson. He got bought out by the Utah Jazz, which allowed the Knicks to swoop in and pick him up on a super cheap deal. He is just on a 1-year vet minimum. And I know Jordan Clarkson has had a few down seasons the last few years in Utah. I do think part of that is because he was overtaxed and was one of their main guys in Utah. Now with the Knicks, he's going to be back to his natural 6-man role. There's going to be a lot better players around him, a lot more structure around him. So I do think that it's going to be very easy for him to produce way more of a value or way higher of a value than just a vet minimum contract. One of the Knicks' biggest weaknesses last year was they didn't really have another shot creator besides Jalen Brunson, and they didn't really have much ball handling besides JB, a little bit of Josh Hart, and then Cam Payne when he was in the game. Jordan Clarkson immediately comes onto this Knicks team and is their second best shot creator behind Jalen Brunson and one of their best ball handlers as well. And again, for just a vet minimum, I think it's going to be a really high upside signing for the Knicks. The other guy they went out and got was Gershon Yabusele. He previously was on the 76ers last season. He signed a 2-year, $12 million deal with the Knicks, where the second year is a player option. And I think that he's going to perfectly replace that role that Precious Achiuwa played, where he's sometimes going to be power forward, sometimes going to be center. The big difference, though, is Precious is way more of a energy defensive type of guy, where Gershon Yabusele is just an absolute offensive bucket. There's pretty much two things that Gershon Yabusele wants to do when he has the ball in his hands, and that is shoot a three or get to the rim and yam on someone. The most famous highlight I think he has right now was in the Olympics in the gold medal game versus the United States. He played for France, and he yammed it on LeBron. I made a joke that he was going to get signed to the NBA off that alone. I mean, it wasn't off that alone. It was off his whole Olympic run last summer, but that's what made him come back to the NBA, and now he's on the Knicks, and I think is going to be a big offensive punch alongside Jordan Clarkson off their bench. I do really like this signing, though, because since Julius Randle got traded from the Knicks, they didn't really have a true power forward on their roster. I mentioned Precious as being a little bit of a tweener. I know Cat can run some power forward as well, but he is also a tweener where he runs some center. Josh Hart, obviously, is super undersized for the power forward, even though some of his skill set kind of aids to that position. And then their main power forward right now on the roster is, of course, OG Anunoby, which, again, is kind of a tweener between a small forward and power forward. Gershon Yabusele at 6'8", I don't know his weight, but bulky. He is a true power forward, and I really like that. It adds a lot of versatility to the lineups that the Knicks can run. I'm kind of burying the lead here, though, because the number one addition the Knicks made this offseason, and the most important in my eyes, is, of course, hiring new head coach Mike Brown. It was a very controversial move to move off of Tom Thibodeau, and I don't think I ever made a video about it. So real quick, I do want to say, Tom Thibodeau, thank you so much for everything you've done for the New York Knicks. You brought us out of the mud back into relevancy and back into, I don't want to say championship contention, but at the bare minimum playoff contention. You got us to that level. You, like I said in the beginning of this video, brought us all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals as our head coach. I definitely think Tom Thibodeau is a good NBA coach. I think he's great at raising the floor of your team. I just think that the Knicks kind of were at their ceiling and needed someone that can raise that besides their floor. We have the talent now. We have, the players to make that playoff push. Now we need something to put us over the edge. And hopefully that's Mike Brown now. Mike Brown most recently coached the Sacramento Kings. He was their head coach for the last 3 seasons. He got fired this year after a lackluster start, but when he first came in, he really just revitalized the whole Sacramento Kings franchise and brought them to the playoffs for the first time in I don't even know how long. He really was a big culture changer there. Before that, he was also on the sideline as an assistant coach for the Golden State Warriors through their whole dynasty. And I'm really excited to see what Mike Brown does with this team because he is a much modern coach, more modern than Tom Thibodeau for sure. Tom, when he was coaching the Knicks for pretty much his whole entirety of coaching them, they were one of the slowest teams in the NBA. Mike Brown has already mentioned that one of his biggest things he wants to do for this Knicks team is raise the tempo, and I think that's going to just immediately help the offense just by being faster alone. A lot of times last year, the Knicks would really struggle bringing the ball up even into the half court. They would waste a lot of time off that and then would take even longer to get into their sets and their plays. And then before you know it, you look up the shot clock, there's 5 seconds left. Jalen Brunson is kind of just out there and he's like, all right, I guess I got to create something. I'm really hoping that Mike Brown is a little more creative with this offense, gets some more movement going, gets some more plays, really, empowers all of these different players because the Knicks have a lot of offensive firepower on their roster. And speaking of the Knicks roster, this is a potential depth chart that we could be seeing going into the season. This is the same starting lineup they finished the Eastern Conference Finals off with last season with Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Karl Anthony Towns, and Mitchell Robinson. And then off the bench, we have some new faces here with Jordan Clarkson, Deuce McBride, Pacome Dadier, Josh Hart, and Gershon Yabusele. So the first thing I want to say is that starting lineup, I'm not 100% sure if that's going to be it. There's like 3 different variations in my head on starting lineups for the Knicks, and I think all 3 are very possible. First, obviously, is the one I just showed you where they finished off the Eastern Conference Finals running that starting 5. The double big lineup of Mitch and Cat really was beneficial in the playoffs. It kind of helps to negate some of the bad defensive liability that Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson bring. Also, with the kind of lackluster offense at times, Mitchell Robinson with his offensive rebound, he's one of the best, if not the absolute best in the NBA at offensive rebounding. So he brings a lot of value there. I could see them starting with that. There are reports that there's a lot of internal support for that starting 5, But at the end of the day, it comes down to what Mike Brown wants. The other options I could see is the starting five that the Knicks used for majority of the season, which would be that same starting five, except you swap out Mitchell Robinson for Josh Hart. And then the third possible starting lineup, which I see a lot of Knicks fans advocating for, is that same starting five, except you take out Josh Hart and you put in Deuce McBride to really get the full 5-out offense experience. If I had to bet my money, I would say that they're going to do that Mitchell Robinson, Karl Anthony Towns type of lineup. But if they don't, I really hope they go the Deuce McBride route to get that 5-out offense, because again, with Mike Brown and his creativity, I really think that the Knicks could have the best offense in the entire NBA this coming season. Regardless of who starts the game, what I really like about the Knicks and their offseason is they have become a more versatile team. And when I say that, I mean the amount of lineups they can throw out there is much more versatile. Like we saw right there, their starting five, they could run a double big lineup. They could put out that Deuce McBride and just get spacing around Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson, let them run that pick and roll and let them be unstoppable. They could also go 5-out but still get that size where they put Cat at the 5 and still insert Guerschon Yabusele there. They still have, bigger bodies there in case they're going up against a team that has a lot of size. They also can run an all-bench lineup, and with the additions of Guerschon Yabusele, Jordan Clarkson, now Josh Hart presumably coming off the bench, I would be way more confident in them running that lineup out than they were last year. I think that speaks volume to the depth that the Knicks added a lot. But at the end of the day, the Knicks really go as far as Jalen Brunson takes them, and that's why I am still super interested to see how well Mike Brown empowers that two-man lineup of Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns together. Will he fully empower that 5-out lineup more than Tom Thibodeau? Hopefully, I would hope so. I just feel like when you look at this Knicks team, they have pretty much everything you want them to have. They have their top-tier elite superstar guy in Jalen Brunson. They have secondary ball handlers that can alleviate some of that pressure off of him. They have their secondary scorer of Karl Anthony Towns, who's coming off a career year. The defensive playmakers of OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges on the wing, alongside the do-it-all Josh Hart. Off the bench, they have their new reinforcements as well. I'm super excited for this Knicks season coming up. And real quick too, with my inclusion of Pacome Dadier in the rotation, I could see it going one of two ways. Either Pacome comes in and is that 10th man in the rotation, that backup wing, or if the Knicks do end up re-signing Landry Shamet, he's coming off a great playoff run. I could very easily see Mike Brown kind of lean more towards the veteran than the young guy. We've seen him do it in Sacramento with the Kevin Huerter and Keon Ellis type of situation. So I could definitely see that being, just swap out Pacome, put in Landry if we sign him. If not, though, Pacome, I think she should be ready at least. Now I want to talk about the ceiling, floor, and my expectations for the New York Knicks. At their ceiling, I think that they could be the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Like I mentioned, it's kind of wide open right now with the injury to Halliburton, to Tatum. Now Damian Lillard is back in Portland. There's a lot of question marks around a lot of teams in the East. So because of that and because of how good the Knicks look currently, I think that they could be at their ceiling the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I think they could win 60-plus games. And again, at their ceiling, I think they could be NBA champions. Then when you look at the floor for the Knicks, I see them being as low as the 4th seed. I was kind of contemplating if I should give them a 3 seed or 4 seed floor, but I figured it's the floor, so you might as well go as low as possible. That is the 4th seed. Again, with how weak the Eastern Conference is, I don't see them being lower than many teams besides the Cavs. Maybe if the Sixers are healthy and Orlando, maybe you could throw Detroit in there too. At their worst, though, I still do think they will be one of the best Eastern Conference teams. And then when it comes to playoffs, I think they should be a first-round lock. I think they can move on from that. Once it gets to that second round, though, I guess depending on matchups and seedings, I could see them at their floor being a second-round exit. My expectations for the Knicks, though, trying to be unbiased as possible, I do think that the Knicks are going to be just competing with the Cleveland Cavaliers for the top seed out east, and I do expect them to edge out the Cavs and actually get that first seed. I'm not 100% sure if they will win that 60-win mark, but last year they won 51 games, and with their new coach and their addition to their depth, I think that they should pretty easily win 55-plus games next season. And then when you look at their playoff run, Last year they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think anything short of that would be super disappointing for them. I could even see them making the finals, though, at that point, too. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, though. Where do you think the Knicks will end in this year's standings, and how far do you think they can make it in the playoffs? Also, let me know your favorite move that the Knicks made this offseason, whether that's a signing or Mike Brown or what they drafted or, anything. Let me know down below in the comments. I'm super excited to get this preseason preview series back underway. Again, it's one of my favorite series to do every year. Last year was the first time I hit all 30 NBA teams. This year that's my plan again. I'm trying to hit all 30 NBA teams. So if you want to see your favorite team, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. It will be coming. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave it a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the description, there's links to all my social medias, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch ya.